Greetings, chemistry students. Today we're going to learn to solve mole mass problems. Now, there are a couple of things that you need to know about this. Like, first of all, sometimes you're given moles of one compound and you're asked to figure out how many grams of another compound you can produce. That's when you're going to be using this kind of problem. Something that's going to be different from what we did before is that the compound that you are given is not going to be the same as the compound that you're trying to find. And in order to change between compounds, you need to use something called the mole ratio. Now, we've talked about the mole ratio before. The mole ratio is simply a comparison of quantities of two compounds within a chemical equation. So I just typed that up at the top of your screen. So if you need to take a moment in order to copy that down, then pause the video and go ahead and do so. Now, so the mole ratio is going to involve numbers that come from our chemical equation. The numbers are the coefficients, the big numbers that are going to be found right before the chemical formulas of the compounds. What that means is that your chemical equation needs to be balanced before we even begin to do any kind of calculations. Now, on the exam, I'm going to give you the balanced equation, so you aren't going to have to worry about doing that. In order to balance my equation here, though, I need to have a 3 as my coefficient in front of potassium chloride, and I also need to have a 3 in front of my formula for hydrogen chloride. So now my entire equation is balanced. The next thing that I want to point out to you is that I have calculated the molar masses for every compound, and I have written them below each of the formulas. We have calculated molar mass before in our last unit. I know that you know how to do it. I've already tested you on it. So instead of giving students the opportunity to make a small error in calculating the molar mass, I just want to make sure to level the playing field to make sure that we're really testing that you understand how to change from moles to grams. And so I'm going to give you the molar masses for every compound that you should use. But the thing that you need to remember is that the molar mass, which for HCl, for example, is 36.46, is always equal to 1 mole. And so we can write it like this. We can write it like this: 36.46 grams of HCl is equal to 1 mole of HCl. Or we can even write it kind of like a fraction, like one on top of the other. So we could have 36.46 grams of HCl is equal to 1 mole of HCl. Or we can even write it the opposite way. 1 mole of HCl is equal to 36.46 grams of HCl. So all of these are going to mean the same thing. But the thing that you need to remember is this. If you write grams of a compound at the bottom of our window setup, you always have to have 1 mole on top of that in the window setup. You can also flip it around. If you write grams of a compound at the top of our window setup, you have to write 1 mole below it. You'll see what I mean in just a moment. All right, now that we've got these few introductory things going, if you are going to change from moles of compound A to grams of compound B, you can no longer do this with only 4 windows. You need to use a 6-window setup. So to do the 6-window setup, you draw a horizontal line and you draw 2 vertical lines like so. And then you're ready to start plugging in your given and you're trying to find. Now, just like in our previous problems, the given is always going to go in the upper left window. Just like in our previous problems, what you're trying to find, the TTF, goes in the upper right. The last thing to know about these kinds of problems is that your middle section here is your mole ratio. So once again, this is the setup. This is the pattern that you use to fill out the windows when you are given moles. So your given is moles of compound A, and you're trying to find grams of compound B. Let's do an example together. My question here is, how many grams of HCl can you make with 18.2 moles of KCl? First, let's identify the given and the trying to find. So my given here is 18.2 moles of KCl. My trying to find is grams of HCl. So since I'm given moles and I'm trying to find grams, this means that I'm doing a 6-window problem. So I'm going to set this up by drawing out my 6 windows. And like I mentioned before above, I'm going to write my given in the upper left-hand corner. So my given is 18.2 moles of KCl. Notice that I not only have the number there, but I have the unit and I have the formula for the compound that I'm talking about. You should write the same thing. There's going to be a lot of writing in this. Make sure that you're writing small so that you don't get irritated because you don't have enough space. So, you're not going to be writing really big. Make sure that you're writing small. Make sure that you're writing neatly as well. Okay, what I'm trying to find is grams of HCl. So my trying to find always goes in the upper right-hand window. So that's what I wrote there. Now, I have to fill in the mole ratio. And remember that my numbers come from the equation. So what number goes where? Well, the first thing I need to do is take my unit, which is moles of KCl, and I need to demote it. I need to rewrite it down here in the next window. So I'm going to write mole of KCl. You're just copying it down, folks. It's just taking what you've got here in the upper left and moving it down so that you can cancel it out in a couple minutes. Now at the top, I'm going to write moles, because remember, this is the mole ratio, moles of the compound that I'm looking for, the compound that I'm trying to find. Well, the compound that I'm trying to find is HCl, so I'm going to put moles of HCl here at the top. Now what I have to do is find the numbers that I want to write in front of moles. So I need to refer back to my my equation here. So in front of KCl, I have a 3. So I'm going to put a 3 in front of moles of KCl here in my windows. Let's go back up and see what my coefficient is for HCl. For HCl, I also have a 3. So I'm going to come back down And I'm going to put a 3 in front of moles of HCl, but I don't need it to be blue. All right. Now I can cross out moles of KCl at the top and at the bottom because it's kind of like adding 3 and then subtracting 3. They cancel each other out, so we can get rid of them. So we're going to cancel them out so that we don't have to worry about it anymore. Now we have to fill out our final section. Our final window section here, this is simply the molar mass in grams is equal to 1 mole of the TTF, of the trying to find compound. Now we already know that grams of HCl have to go at the top because that's what we're trying to find. So that has to be at the top. At the bottom, we write 1 mole of HCl. And if you look back at your equation here, you'll see I already told you how many grams of HCl equals 1 mole of HCl. And if you look at the different versions of how I wrote that relationship, you can see right here that this is the one that we're using. This is the one that we're plugging into our windows here on the right-hand side. So we know that 36.46 grams of HCl is equal to, that's what that line means, 1 mole of HCl. Basically, you guys, what we've done here is we've taken two proportions, the mole ratio and the molar mass, and we've just kind of merged them together. We've welded them together into one long table instead of doing it all separately. Okay, now that we've got all of our windows filled, we have a couple more things that we can cancel. We have moles of HCl at the top, and we have moles of HCl at the bottom. I'm going to cross them out because they cancel each other. And we are left, I don't have grams of HCl anywhere else in my table, so that's what I'm left with. That's what I'm trying to find. That's going to be part of our answer. Now, to find our answer, to calculate it out, we have to multiply the numbers across the top. So we're going to get 18.2 times 3 times 36.46. And then I'm going to multiply the numbers across the bottom. 3 times 1. And I'm going to divide them. Once you do this division, I'm going to get the answer. I'm going to put it over here in the corner because I ran out of room. 663.57 grams of HCl. And that, my friends, is your final answer. So I hope that this helps you. This is the setup for solving mole to gram problems. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to solve the opposite way. Gram, if you're given grams, how can you figure out how many moles of a substance you have? Thanks for watching.